All right, welcome back to Outmouse Labs. We're continuing our Teak 80 tutorial series today. And today we're going to start actually making some things. So up to this point, we've just been covering concepts of how we would make things. So we are not going to complete this project today, but this is what we're going to be building over the next few videos. So it is a simple top-down game. We have camera movement. It follows the player. We have collisions, as you can see. We have the ability to go beyond one screen into the next. And we have a couple of one sound effect. And the ability to pick up coins and gain a score. Okay, so that's actually quite a bit of a basic game. That's what we're going to be building. So let's jump in. Again, if you are going to be coding along in the free version, you're going to be in here, and everything we do, you can do. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code because I find it much, much easier to do. Okay, so here we have a basic file all set up. I just made a copy of my template and cleared it out. I'm going to go ahead and change this to, we'll call it YT top down. And we're going to start by just creating our game class. I think that's a good spot to start here. So, just like we did before, we're going to say local game, capital G is a function, and end. And the first thing we're going to do is create our new game table. Okay, and then our new game table, we're going to return, because you can easily forget it, so return new game. Then we're going to say, so what are we going to need for our game? We're going to need scenes. We're going to need load, an update, and a draw. We're going to probably need some basic information. So let's go ahead and say, new game, let's have a title scene, which for now is going to be a nil. And we're going to have a map scene, which for now is also going to be a nil. So there's our scenes for the moment. We're going to have a update function for sure. So we'll say function new game update, and we'll say end. And we're going to have a function new game draw, and we'll say end. And we're going to have a current scene. So and that'll also be nil to start. Okay. And then we know that because of the way we're going to do this, we know that our current scene, which will be self.current scene, is going to have an update, which we're going to run, and a self.current scene draw, which we're going to run. Okay, so that's a basic skeleton. And then down here, we're going to create our game equals game. And we're going to make that a local. So there we go. And then I'm realizing we want an init. So we're going to have an init is just like going to run once. So new game init and end. Okay. And we know that we're going to say if t equals 0, then run our games init. And then otherwise, we want it to run our games updates and our games draw. Okay, so let's talk about what we did there. So again, we created our game, we set up a skeleton, and then we created an instance of our game and told it to run its init function when the game first starts, and otherwise run its update and draw 60 times per second or near it. All right, so nice and simple. Hopefully that made sense. Now the next thing is we need our to do something. So for that we need scenes. So I'm going to go look over at my, close out as much of this to kind of keep it from being confusing if possible. Pardon. There we go. All right, so our scene. So this is a basic skeleton once again. So we're going to take a look at that. We'll bring it over here. So what is a scene? A scene is a class. You can tell because of the capital letter. Works exactly the same. It has a name. It has an init, an update, and a draw. Same as there. And that is the skeleton for it. So now that that exists, we can create some scenes. And we can say our title scene. We'll say local title scene is a scene called title. I know, very inventive. Local map scene is a scene called map. Now that those are existing, we can and map. And we can set our current scene for now to, well, actually we have to leave that nil. I tried to do it here several times and I could not get it to work. So we're going to do it in our init. So we will say self.current scene equals self.title scene. And then we're going to do self.current scene init. And that sets our initial scene and runs its init. Okay, and the rest of these should be good to go. All right, looking great. Cannot assign integer table to parameter table. We might have to see what it doesn't like about that in a minute. Pending from the future here, just wanted to let you know that I forgot to add one of my functions. So function new game change scene, which takes parameter new scene. And all it does is change the scene in the same way, but it looks a little bit nicer. So we can say self : change scene self.map scene instead of that equals in the middle of it. So it works exactly the same, but it looks a little nicer, and that's what we'll be doing going forward. All right. So, okay, so we have our scenes made. We have our class, our instances. We have it added to our game. Next up, let's go grab an important helper function. So these I'll explain what they do in just a minute here. Boop. And we'll stick it on top. And we can actually go get rid of this one. Okay. All right, so this helper function, I found it on Substack originally and updated it a little bit. It basically just checks to see if there's a value in the table, and we're going to use it for our collision. So it takes a table and a value, it runs through that table, and looks to see if anything in that table matches the value. If it does, it's true. Otherwise, it's false. Then we have our local t and our local solids. This is going to be our table that we're going to run t contains on, which are solid objects that the player can't pass through. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, let's go ahead and try and run it. Make sure that we don't get any errors. It's not going to do anything right now, but we just want to make sure there's no errors. Okay, and there's not. Wonderful. Next up, just so we can get something on the screen, let's do map scene underscore draw. And we'll say end, so we're going to override that right now. And we're just going to say print drawing. Not seeing it. Why are we not seeing it? So we've overrode our draw. We've set our... Oh, that's why. We set it to title scene, and I had meant to set it to map scene. There you go. So it's that simple. So now we have it set up, so whatever we do in a scene is what it shows in the game. If we switch the scene, we change the game, which allows us to have menus, it allows us to have multiple levels. It's a really important concept. So all of that is working, and that seems like a good spot to stop this video. We will continue building out our game in the next one. Thank you.